For nearly 30 centuries, from its unification around 3100 BC to its conquest by Alexander the Great in 332 BC, ancient Egypt was the epitome of grandeur, innovation, and cultural sophistication. But beyond the awe-inspiring pyramids, the sphinxes, and the tales of divine pharaohs lies a history less told, a narrative that not only challenges our preconceptions, but also reveals that what we know is merely a piece of a much more complex puzzle. Ready to delve into the secret shrouded in the sands of time. Number 1. Queen Nefertiti's disappearance. Imagine being 15 and marrying Amenhotep IV, the son of Amenhotep III, a pharaoh known as Amenhotep the Magnificent. That's right, at just 15, Queen Nefertiti was already stepping into a world of immense power and influence. But who was she before that? Well, some say she was the daughter or niece of an official named Ai, who later became a pharaoh himself. Others think she might have been a princess from the Mitanni kingdom in northern Syria. Now, let's fast forward to around 1353 BCE. Amenhotep IV ascends to the throne and takes the name Akhenaten. Nefertiti is right there beside him, and together they start shaking things up big time. They change the entire religious landscape of Egypt, moving away from the worship of multiple gods to focus on just one, the sun god Aten. Temples were closed, and the old gods were pushed aside. However, during her time, Nefertiti wasn't just known for her political power. She was also famous for her beauty. She was so beautiful that her name literally translates to "the beautiful one has come." And let's not forget about love. Akhenaten and Nefertiti were often depicted in art and sculptures, sharing intimate moments, like riding together in a chariot or kissing. They even had 6 daughters, 2 of whom went on to become queens of Egypt. But here's where it gets really interesting. Around the 12th year of Akhenaten's rule, Nefertiti vanished from historical records. Just like that, she's gone. No death record, no tomb, nothing. So what happened? One theory suggests she assumed a new identity to continue ruling as a female king, a role other Egyptian women had taken before. Another idea proposes she changed her name to Neferneferuaten and became a co-regent. However, some scholars argue she might have died naturally around the 14th year of Akhenaten's rule. Despite these theories, no conclusive evidence, such as her mummy, has been found. Number 2. Isis and the virgin birth. You might think that the idea of a virgin birth is unique to certain religions, but guess what? Ancient Egypt had its own twist on this miraculous event. Let's start from the beginning. Isis wasn't just any goddess. She was a big deal in ancient Egypt. Born to the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb, she was royalty from the get-go. She even married her older brother Osiris, who was the first divine king of Egypt. But here's where things take a dark turn. Osiris had a younger brother named Set, and let's just say he wasn't a fan of his older sibling. Fueled by jealousy, Set plotted to get rid of Osiris. He tricked him into a magical casket during a party, sealed it, and tossed it into the Nile River. Just like that, Osiris was out of the picture, and Set took over as ruler. Isis, heartbroken but determined, went on a quest to find her husband's body. After months of searching, she found it in a place called Byblos. But wait, Set cut Osiris's body into 14 pieces, scattering them across the earth. But Isis wasn't giving up. She found 13 of the 14 pieces. The last piece, well, let's just say it was fish food. Now comes the miraculous part. With the help of other gods like Thoth and Anubis, Isis put Osiris's body back together. Using her magical powers, she resurrected him, and they conceived a son named Horus. That's right, Osiris was brought back to life just long enough for them to have a child. But the story doesn't end there. Osiris became the lord of the afterlife, and Isis had to raise Horus on her own. She hid in the Nile Delta marshlands to protect her son from Set. Horus grew up and took back the throne from Set, avenging his father's death. But Isis wasn't just revered as a goddess of life and magic. She was also seen as the ultimate healer. She even healed Ra, the supreme god of Egypt, using her magical spells. And get this, she tricked Ra into revealing his secret name to her, which she then passed on to Horus. This marked a transfer of power from Ra to Horus. Number 3. The afterlife and judgment of souls in ancient Egypt. Imagine a place where you could live forever, surrounded by everything you ever loved, without any sickness or disappointment. Well, for the ancient Egyptians, this dreamy place was a reality, or at least they believed it was. They called it the Field of Reeds, and it was their version of heaven. But getting there wasn't a walk in the park. Oh no, you had to earn your spot. First off, your heart had to be as light as a feather, literally. When you died, you'd find yourself in the Hall of Truth, standing before Osiris, the lord of the underworld. He'd put your heart on one side of a golden scale and a feather on the other. If your heart were heavier, you'd be cast into darkness, never to see the Field of Reeds. But if it balanced out, you'd get your eternal paradise. But wait, how do you keep your heart light? The ancient Egyptians believed that living a life of gratitude and avoiding negative thoughts like jealousy and selfishness was the key. And your soul? It wasn't just one thing. It was made up of 9 different parts, and all these parts parts had to be in harmony for you to reach the field of reeds. Now, you might be thinking, what if I forget all this after I die? Don't worry, the Egyptians had that covered too. They painted scenes and texts on tomb walls to guide the soul. Number 4. Hatshepsut's legacy. We've already seen how Queen Nefertiti rose to power at only 15, but now, picture this. A 12-year-old girl becomes the Queen of Egypt. And she wasn't just any queen. After her husband Thutmose II died, she took over as the ruler of Egypt, not just as a regent for her stepson Thutmose III, but as a full-fledged pharaoh. However, Hatshepsut wasn't content with just ruling. She wanted to leave her mark. She built some of Egypt's most magnificent structures, including a jaw-dropping temple at Deir el-Bahri. She even led a trading expedition to a far-off land called Punt, bringing back treasures like gold and ivory. But she also had her share of controversies. Some say she took the throne to save it from a political crisis, while others think she was just power-hungry. She even had herself portrayed as a male pharaoh in statues, complete with a beard and muscles. However, her legacy took a hit after her death. Her stepson, Thutmose III, tried to erase her from history. He defaced her monuments and removed her name from official records. But you can't keep a good queen down. In the 19th century, scholars rediscovered her, and now her life-size statue sits in the Metropolitan Museum in New York City. Number 5. Set and his demonization. Remember Set, the Egyptian god of deserts, storms, and chaos we just discussed? Well, his own story's as wild as a sandstorm. Set was part of the first batch of gods, alongside Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Horus the Elder. But unlike his siblings, Set was fated to be the destroyer, or the instigator of confusion. In addition to killing his brother and chopping him into 14 pieces, he also had 2 epic battles with his nephew. But Set wasn't always seen as the bad guy. In fact, during the early dynastic period, he was worshipped as a benevolent god, especially in Upper Egypt. He was even considered the protector of the sun god Ra. But all that changed when the Hyksos, foreign rulers, took over parts of Egypt and chose Set as their patron god. After they were kicked out, Set's reputation took a nosedive. He became the god of invaders and foreigners, the ultimate bad guy. However, don't count Set out just yet. During the 19th dynastic period, he made a comeback. Pharaohs like Ramesses I and Seti I honored him, and he was even elevated to the status of the patron god of Egypt. So, was Set really evil, or was he just misunderstood? We may never know, but one thing's for sure. Set is one of the most enigmatic and intriguing gods in ancient Egyptian mythology. Number 6. Hathor's violent aspect. And last but not least, let's discuss Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of love, music, and dance, who had a dark side that would make even the bravest warrior tremble. In one myth, Hathor transformed into Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess, to punish humanity for its sins. She went on a rampage, slaughtering people left and right. It was a bloodbath, literally. The other gods had to intervene before she wiped out all of humanity. They tricked her by dyeing beer red to resemble blood and got her drunk. Only then did she revert to her gentle self. But why did Hathor have this violent aspect? Some say it was to balance her nurturing side, a reminder that even the most loving beings have their limits. Others believe it was a representation of the natural disasters that often struck ancient Egypt, like floods and droughts. Anyhow, Hathor was a force of nature, both literally and metaphorically. As we continue to unearth these narratives, we must ask ourselves, what other untold stories are buried deep within the sands of time, waiting for the right moment to rewrite history? Isn't it time we dug a little deeper? If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and sharing so we can keep bringing more content like this. See you next time.